Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. After a mixed bag of results of the Boston Major 1, OpTic has now responded to the situation with OpTic this past weekend, saying that he's really proud of the way the boys performed and reckons they're only a small step away from being able to seriously compete with FaZe and Ultra at the top end of this league. One advantage that OpTic may have is the massive change to the game that's now coming into effect. Bit of a fresh start for every team over the next couple of weeks. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. This pretty well as well, I'm not going to lie. I know that Jalen Suggs has had, I think the Rich and Lonely drops on as well with Bose. Bose's connections actually go kind of wild. This guy, you know, he's boys with everyone and it's great to see. So, yeah, there were some funny pictures going around yesterday as we have seen before with an OpTic app over the last several years. This also, though, a big update for you guys on the Seattle Surge drama that has been going down for, well, about a month or so really now since the start of January. We know what happened with Illy this past weekend. We're not going to get into that again, but what we are going to get into is this from Abuzah. This guy doesn't tweet much, and fair enough, you don't have to, but as he says, sorry guys, I've been away from the social medias for the last few days, I really needed it, but I'm finally back. Just wanted to say thank you to all those who supported us, and also Surge, unforgettable major, ended top 6, pretty good result from Surge all things considered. We'll work harder for the next major, which kind of implies they're going to keep the same team, but to be honest, I've heard this before, I've seen this before, when players say, oh well, you know, we're going to work harder, we'll be back stronger, and then 2 days later, you know, some drama, some roster change. My understanding is there's definitely roster changes going down right now, but the question is where and for who, so we'll see how that goes. But he also responded to the single tap cheating drama. Now, I'm kind of mind blown he's responded to this now, but he actually says that. But look, we've got to get into it, because as he says, also I wanted to clear that with everyone because I think that it's unfair. I never used single tap to run or whatever in any matches. I didn't say anything about it at first, but it has gone too far right now. I hate being in dramas. I know that I should have talked about this earlier. So, okay, let's just dive into this. If you guys don't remember the story, back in, well, let's pretty much say December, when Abuzah and Surge played against FaZe, there was VOD that was reviewed by Scrappy, and he believed, and Octane definitely believed at the time, that Abuzah was using single tap to run, because when you watched Abuzah's POV, it didn't seem like he was single running at all. It was just straight into tactical sprint. So, and that would, you know, indicate that he was potentially using single tap to run on the controller settings, which is probably a good setting, to be honest. I think the pros should just use it, because otherwise their hands are going to be ruined. But whatever, they decided not to because there's a skill gap, and okay, fair enough. But if you were to use it as a player, it should confer some degree of advantage. And, well, the evidence seemed to be there that Abuzah would use it. The pros seemed pretty much unanimous on their agreement that he had done, and Abuzah never denied it at the time, and Surge got hit with the punishment, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure, at least on that offense, they didn't get warm-ups or whatever it was for the next stuff, and then since they then maybe accidentally broke the smoke GA, or Huke has maybe accidentally snaked a couple of things, they're now getting like serious blacklists. I mean, the rumor was that going into this major, no scrims, and apparently even after the major, no scrims for a little while as well. So they're getting hit hard because of all these repeated offenses. But Abuzah's saying that actually, no, the first offense wasn't even an offense, I never used it, and, you know, okay, he can't really prove it per se, but maybe he could find like some part of that VOD where he was actually spotted just normal running, so there'd be some evidence for it. I don't know, but why would you say this now? They've already got hit with the punishment, and it doesn't really help your case precisely to say it now, and maybe the intention is to make sure they don't get blacklisted going forward. And apparently Zuma and Octane mentioned on stream a couple of weeks ago now that some pros had actually said, well, maybe he wasn't using single tap to run. So, you know, I might well take Abuzah's word for this, but just the fact that he's not denied it at the time, he could have denied it at the time, and then people would have said, okay, well, fair enough, maybe Scrappy was going too far. But no, he basically seemed to tacitly admit it by saying nothing, and therefore has created more drama as a result. So that's how it goes. If you're a pro player and there's some sort of controversy around you, it's going to exist no matter what. If you ignore it, it probably exists to an even greater extent. That's just how it tends to go. But still, Surge, it's not like that's the only thing that's been going down. Plenty of other drama within that camp in recent times, and therefore also discussions as to potential changes to the roster. Top 6 might be good enough for them to think they're okay. I don't think they're okay, and to be honest, I expect the new meta with the rival being probably more powerful, because the way the maps have changed, the way the weapons have changed, the rival is probably slightly better now relative to the MCW than it was before, and we're probably going to see more double SMGs than we saw at Major 1. That may not be true, but that's just a feeling, and if that is true, it hurt Surge even more. Surge were formed as an AR-focused team. Some maps in this game play as 4 ARs. I don't think that's going to be the case forever, and I don't think that, let's be honest, they had to clutch up in some Game 5s, and Ravens had to troll, and Boston had to be embarrassing in Search and Destroy for them to even do anything this tournament. So I don't think that I don't think that Surge shouldn't make a change, is what I'm trying to say. I actually think they should really consider it, because if you don't, you're going to lose lots of the top prospect free agents, such as this man on screen here, Mr. Ben J. Razim. And as Octane said now a few days ago, that Ravens were proactive in turning their season around with the 2 changes they made, and now they come out, they knock out Subliners from the tournament. Teams need to follow the example being set. So we'll see how many teams end up doing that over the next couple of days, because, as I said, I'm pretty sure there's some changes going down. The question is precisely what. Now, Shotzzy has got back from the weekend, this past weekend, so has Pred, of course, and the boys on OpTic, and it's an interesting weekend for those guys, right? Because at the end of the day, they got top 3. But it's not first place, and therefore as soon as it's not first, questions are going to be asked about the roster. But I do think people are relatively quick to forget in some ways the fact that OpTic's top 3 looks pretty damn good compared to how the World Champions did this tournament. Let's not forget the World Champion roster, the New York Subliners. They came in and got slammed out top 12. Now, the Rocket Series was controversial because of all the replays and all the drama, but they lost to Ravens pretty fair and square. A Ravens team which did play well and probably played better than their placing suggests, but nonetheless, it's a Subliners team that's lost emphatically to a non-paper far inferior roster. So I think there definitely should be more discussion about Subliners than there is. I think most of the discussion again has been focused on OpTic, which, is inevitable. They're the team with the biggest fan base, but still, Subliners were top 12, OpTic were top 3, but yet there's all the talk about, oh, well, OpTic, they're not good enough, they need to do this and that. But I also get it from that side, just because OpTic were clearly levels behind. It's not like they were, in the mix. They lost a couple of close Game 5s to the best teams. They did lose a Game 5 to FaZe, but it wasn't an especially close one, and, it seemed like they were a step behind FaZe, and clearly FaZe a step behind Ultra. So I think that's kind of the thing for OpTic, is that, they're not necessarily right there. They're going to need a fair bit of work to get to where Ultra presently resides. So I'll show a couple of clips here, a funny one from Shotzzy, but also Pred's response to this on how he feels after the weekend. Clearly gutted, frustrated that he hasn't won the event, certainly wanted to, but feels like there's actually a lot to take away here from the tournament itself. The progress they made, proud of the boys, and reckons they're only a couple of steps away from going one step further.
I know we didn't come away with the dub, but you're slamming, dude. Chat, we're actually playing really good, man. It's a little unfortunate situations. This game is we got to learn a new game. So we're not gonna even think too much about the event. It was just good, for us, good reps. But now we got to learn the game again. But it's good. It's good. It was positive. There's a lot of positives to take. You know what I'm saying? In the winners round 2 to get to the winners final, we kind of got fucking, we got hit with a dirty Neslo, which is, so AIDS, because, yeah, I don't know. Just didn't, win an S&D, man. And then, in the losers final, we didn't win a half. But it's just, it's very, you know what I'm saying? I'm proud of the boys, I'm really proud. We're heading in the right direction. That's the main thing, you know what I'm saying? We're heading in the right direction. Just got to clean up our S&D, get more reps. Hard points looking pretty good. Control's pretty good. Just, honestly, just S&Ds, man. We're the only, so-called top 4 team that, that made a 2-man change. You know what I'm saying? So, for us, it's, we have to, you know what I mean? We have to, find each other's flows and shit, which I feel like we really did, in hardpoint especially. So, heading in the right direction, man. But, Ultra played really well, man. But, yeah, I'm excited for the next major, Just got to keep looking forward and just got to keep grinding, bro.
Yeah, chat, is it disgusting? Actually, no, let me not even bring that up. Yo, let's just say, bro, one of the pro players took a fucking shit and didn't wash their hands, bro. I'll be honest. I'm not saying who the fuck it was, because I'm not gonna lie, I actually figured out who the fuck it was. But when I witnessed it, holy, it wasn't long neck. No. He's chilling. He's in the clear.
So I think it definitely was a good weekend for OpTic, right? There's lots of positives to take in the sense that they beat who they were expected to beat. I think the question was, again, coming into this team, how would they do on LAN? Their end to the online split was atrocious, but, Kenny's teams Pred's teams, you'd expect them to go to LAN and do very well. Probably the same, you know, in some respect for the other guys as well. Given, you know, the vibes on this roster and that type of stuff, they should work well together on LAN. They did. They beat the teams they were meant to beat. They took down, of course, in the first round they played Miami. They took down Rocker, of course, in the losers side. They took down Surge slightly before that. And I do believe that the nice thing that OpTic have to work with here is the fact that it is a substantial change to the game happening right about now. They were probably behind. I mean, we talked about it, right? The vacation that Pred took, and, you know, there's all sorts of discussion on that going down to the present day. But also, they just looked behind in Search and Destroy. The respawns were pretty competitive against FaZe that they played. You know, good in control. They lost the hard points in the second series, won them in the first series, but it was the Search and Destroy consistently that let them down over both series against FaZe. So that's one thing to have a look at and to work on. And sure, they could have known that potentially going into the tournament that was going to be crucial, as it tends to always be as the tournament goes on. But still, OpTic were probably slightly less practiced. That's only their own fault as well. But still, I think top 3 is a pretty good result given the circumstances. And now the advantage is that every other team, Ultra, FaZe for example, have to relearn a new game. And OpTic kind of get to do so from a level playing field. Like, it resets for everybody now with all the new spawns, all the new changes on the maps and everything like that. The question is who's going to put in the most time, because FaZe and Ultra will put in a lot of time, maybe the most time. OpTic put in time at the start of the game once Scrappy, or once Pred, sorry, arrived after the visa situation was resolved, but after the New Year Christmas period, OpTic were not as committed, it seemed at least from the outside perspective, in terms of putting in time, than the guys ended up being that won the major and came second place at the major. So I think it's not exactly a lifeline for OpTic in a way, because I think that even with the game as it presently was before Major 1, they could have made, you know, comeback during the season and finish really strong, because the talent on the roster is absolutely undeniable. The question has always been about, all right, what's the culture looking like behind the scenes? What are the priorities within the OpTic camp? And I think that, well, based on the evidence we saw this past weekend, they are going to need to step it up to some degree. But the way that Pred speaks about it makes me think that, yeah, I think they're in a pretty good spot. Kenny and Pred definitely have the right mindset about this, I believe, in terms of getting them to the top. The question, I guess, is whether that mindset is upheld, because you can have the right mindsets coming into OpTic, but once you're part of OpTic, you know, you're part of the family, as it were, then I think we've seen for players in the past, that's not always worked out, because they've had guys with that kind of mentality. I mean, Rambo was one. Let's say from a coaching point of view, Rambo was one, Sender was another. Of course, from a player point of view, you're looking at guys like Crim, but they haven't been on OpTic for some time. But, you know, even those two players, maybe even Tupac Thuglord in some respects, because he was an S&D coach for OpTic when they were Chicago Huntsmen back in MW19, but they let him go. So it's like, you know, Rambo's gone, Sender's gone. Lots of these guys that seem to have the right maybe mentality and the culture side of the team, well, friction emerges and they end up disappearing. So whether that's going to be the same thing here for Kenny and Pred, I guess we'll see over time. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.